Welcome to the dark side of love. In today's video, we bring you the chilling story of betrayal, patience, and a revenge executed so perfectly, it left no room for mercy.
This
Isn't just a tale of infidelity. It's about what happens when a loyal heart is pushed too far and the quiet husband turns out to be the storm you never saw coming. Jonathan Carter sat alone in his dimly lit home office. The blue glow of his laptop flickered across the polished surface of his mahogany desk, casting long, ghostly shadows on the walls. His fingers hovered above the keyboard, the blinking cursor, taunting him, daring him to press forward. He had rewritten this line a dozen times. It's not because he wasn't sure of what he wanted to say, but because this wasn't just an email or a late-night memo. This was the final stroke of a plan he had crafted in silence. With precision, over months, a plan that would end everything and begin something new. Outside the towering glass windows, the Los Angeles skyline shimmered under the midnight sky. The city, like his thoughts, never slept. Neither did Melanie. His wife of 22 years had once again failed to return home. And this time, Jonathan wasn't going to pretend nothing happened. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. The air was thick with tension, decades worth of disappointment, confusion, and betrayal all coiled tightly in his chest. A glass of whiskey sat on the desk beside him, untouched. Not tonight. He needed to be clear, sharp, focused. Because tonight, Jonathan Carter wasn't just a husband, he was an executioner. His phone buzzed. He didn't need to check. He already knew. Melanie Carter. Won't be home soon. Don't wait up. No apology, no reason, just another one line. Dismissal. Like he was a footnote in her high society schedule. He stared at the screen. His jaw clenched. There was a time when she used to wait for him at the door, when she'd light up at the sound of his key turning in the lock. She'd beg him to leave work early, just to spend one more evening tangled together on the couch. Now, she spent her nights wrapped in someone else's arms, laughing at someone else's jokes. Wearing dresses Jonathan had paid for, dripping in jewelry he'd gifted her, while she made a mockery of the life he built. She thought he was weak. She thought he didn't know. She thought she had already won, eh? Humorless chuckle escaped his lips as he turned his attention back to the screen. She had no idea how close she was to losing everything. Within the hour, Melanie Carter's world would be unrecognizable. Her wealth, her lifestyle, her status, all gone. Jonathan opened a hidden folder labeled contingency. Inside it were years of meticulous planning, legal documents, silent financial transfers, hidden clauses in agreements she never bothered to read. She laughed off their prenup when they got married, called it a formality, a joke. But Jonathan wasn't joking. He never was. Line after line of evidence lined the folder. Every dollar she funneled into her charity shopping, GPS logs, hotel receipts, screenshots of texts, photos, every betrayal documented, every lie preserved. His finger hovered over one button, one single command, a keystroke that would freeze her out of everything. Down the hall, the grandfather clock struck 1 o'clock. AM, still no sign of her. Jonathan smiled. She could stay with him tonight because she wasn't coming back to this life ever again. He pressed the key, and just like that, her kingdom crumbled. One by one, her access vanished. Joint accounts, revoked credit cards, canceled personal checking and savings. Frozen even the hidden account she thought he didn't know about, the one she used for spa weekends and socialite benders, gone. But the crown jewel? Her trust fund, the one she swore was untouchable. It was now locked tighter than Fort Knox. She had assumed it would always be her safety net, something she could fall back on when she eventually left him, because yes, she always planned to leave him. She just hadn't gotten around to it yet. But Jonathan, he had always known. He closed his laptop, picked up his phone, opened the live security feed of their estate, the Carter Mansion. $15 million of ultra-modern opulence, perched high in the Hollywood Hills, silent, empty, earlier that day. He'd fired every member of the staff, the chef, who made her mornings smooth, the assistants who booked her facials, the driver who ferried her. Each of them walked away with a generous severance package, more than Melanie deserved. Let's see how she functioned without her entourage of enablers. He laughed. She wouldn't. Her downfall begins. The echo of high heels clicked sharply against the marble floors of the Carter mansion, 9:17 a.m. Melanie. Carter had returned. She stepped through the front door like she always did, sunglasses on. Perfume strong, phone in hand, as if the world owed her its attention. The faint smell of expensive wine clung to her designer dress. She barely glanced at the house around her, oblivious to how empty it felt without the usual buzz of staff. She was too busy thumbing through her phone, likely checking texts from her socialite circle or her lover Jonathan, stood in the kitchen, coffee in hand, waiting. Melanie tossed her bag on the counter like a queen returning to her throne, kicked off her shoes, didn't even look at him when she spoke. Jonathan, I need you to wire me some money today. I'm taking Chloe shopping, and my card kept declining last night. Some kind of bank issue, I think. Jonathan took a slow sip. His eyes never left her. No, Melanie, he said calmly. It's not a bank issue. She stopped mid-scroll. Her head turned. The sunglasses slipped just slightly down her nose, revealing eyes that finally noticed the expression on his face. Blank. Cold. Final. What do you mean? She asked. Trying to laugh it off, he set his mug down with a quiet clink. Your cards didn't decline because of some technical error, he said. They declined because I canceled them. Silence. A flicker of disbelief crossed her face. Then came the laugh, sharp, dismissive. You're being ridiculous. You wouldn't? I would, he cut in, and I did. Her smirk fell away. Panic seeped in around the edges. She snatched her phone, furiously opening her banking app. Jonathan watched her silent. First account. $0 second account. Access. Denied third. Trust fund. Frozen. Her hand began to shake. She tapped again and again. What the hell did you do? She whispered. Jonathan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. I took back everything you assumed you owned. She staggered a step backward, still processing. This is illegal, she said, her voice rising. You can't just take my money. Jonathan's eyes narrowed. It was never your money, Melanie. It was mine. Her chest rose and fell in sharp breaths. We're married, Jonathan. That means half of nothing, he said smoothly, cutting her off. Let me show you. He slid a thick stack of documents across the kitchen island. Remember this? Our prenup? The one you signed 22 years ago, when you were madly in love and thought I hung the moon? Her eyes scanned the papers. Her face turned pale. You assumed? I'd forget, he continued, his voice razor sharp, that if enough time passed, you'd be entitled to half of everything? But maybe you should have read the fine print. She looked up, her mouth slightly open, her confidence gone. You can't prove anything. Stama gave a cold smile. I don't need to prove anything to you, but for the record. He pulled out his phone. One swipe. A photo appeared. Melanie wrapped around. Scott Mitchell in the Four Seasons. Lobby knew another swipe security footage of the two entering the presidential suite. Another swipe text messages. Hers. Sent to Scott. Jonathan is so boring lately. He still has no clue, lol. Melanie stared at the screen like it had slapped her. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Jonathan tucked the phone away. You were sloppy, he said. You thought I wasn't paying attention? You thought I was some fool who'd just sit back and let you ruin everything we built? Her voice broke as she whispered, What? How happens now? He didn't gloat. Didn't raise his voice. He simply picked up his mug again, took another sip, and said, Now, you pack your things. She blinked. You have 48 hours to leave this house, he said plainly. After that, you're trespassing. Her mouth fell open. Panic turned to desperation. Jonathan, please. I made a mistake. No, he said. I made a mistake. And now, I'm correcting it. He walked away, left her standing there, shaking, shattered. Melanie's mind spun. She stumbled back toward the kitchen counter, gripping it like it could anchor her to reality. None of this felt real. She pulled out her phone again, frantically opening her apps, trying every credit card, every account, all frozen, all denied. The walls were closing in. She fumbled through her purse and pulled out a card tied to her emergency fund, the one she secretly set up years ago. Surely Jonathan didn't know about that. She tapped it open. Balance, $0. Her stomach turned. Jonathan had known. He'd found everything. Her fingers trembled as she called Scott. He would fix this. He had to. He had connections, power, money. The call rang once, twice, straight to voicemail. She called again, and again. Nothing. Reality hit like a freight train. Scott knew, and he didn't care. Without her wealth, she was nothing to him. She staggered backward, her chest tight, her world spinning. She clutched the edge of the counter to stay upright. Tears burned her eyes, but she blinked them back. She wouldn't break. Not yet. There was still Chloe, their daughter. She bolted out the door, keys in hand, her sleek black Porsche roaring too. Life, one of the last things, still in her name. The drive to USC felt like a blur of concrete and desperation. She didn't park. She just left the car running and rushed across campus, ignoring the stares of students as her heels clicked wildly. Against the pavement, she found Chloe at an outdoor cafe, laughing with friends. Perfect. You and both, Melanie stormed toward her. We need to talk now. Chloe blinked. Mom, what are you, Chloe? Now, something in her mother's tone made Chloe sigh, roll her eyes, and stand. I'll be back. She muttered to her friends before following her mother away from the crowd. As soon as they were alone, Melanie grabbed her daughter's wrist. Listen to me. I need you to transfer me money. Right now. Chloe pulled her arm back, confused and uneasy. What? From your trust fund. Your money. Chloe, I need you. Your father froze everything. Chloe's eyes narrowed. You don't know, do you? Melanie's blood ran cold. No? What? Dad. Already locked my trust fund too, Chloe said. 2 days ago. Melanie staggered. No. He wouldn't owe. He would, Chloe interrupted. He sent me an email explaining why. Said I've been irresponsible. That I need to prove I can handle money before I get access again. Not until I'm 30, unless I meet certain conditions.
Oni's
voice cracked. But I need that money. Chloe shook her head. No, Mom. You don't understand. I already tried asking him. You know what he said? Melanie didn't answer. He said maybe this will teach you and your mother not to bite the hand that feeds you. There was no air left in Melanie's lungs. Chloe looked away, Maybe he's right. Melanie flinched. You're taking his side now? I'm taking the right side, Chloe snapped. You raised me to chase luxury? To treat Dad like he was just some boring provider? Look where that got us. Melanie reached for her, desperate. Chloe, please, we're family. No, Mom, she said quietly. We were a team, but you were playing a different game. And then she walked away. Melanie stood alone, on a college campus, stripped of money, stripped of power, and now stripped of her daughter. Her world continues to collapse. Melanie Carter sat behind the wheel of her Porsche, parked in a quiet university lot, hands frozen on the steering wheel. Everything was unraveling. Jonathan had frozen every cent. Scott had ghosted her. Chloe had walked away, and now she had nowhere to go. She dialed the one person she thought might still stand by her, Brooklyn, her cousin, her ride or die. The one she had always bragged to about Jonathan's money, her lavish vacations, her Chanel purses. Surely Brooklyn would help. After 2 rings, she picked up Mel. What's wrong? What? Melanie didn't waste time. Brooke, listen, I need a place to stay, just for a few nights. I'm going through something. It's Jonathan. He's trying to ruin me. Pause on the other end. Ruin you? He froze everything. My cards, my accounts, even the house might be gone. I just need a place to crash while I figure it out? There was another long silence. Mel, I don't think that's a good idea. Melanie's heart sank. Brooklyn, it's me, exactly you. The same cousin who showed up to Thanksgiving with bodyguards and a private chef, who bragged about spending more on a dress than I make in a month. And now suddenly you want my couch? Melanie gritted her teeth. This isn't about that. I'm in real trouble. No, Brooklyn said flatly. You're in the consequences. There's a difference. You're seriously turning your back on me? No. You turned your back first. On Jonathan, your daughter, on everyone. Who loved you? Melanie blinked fast, her mouth dry. I just need one night, Brooklyn. Please, find a hotel, Melanie. Or better yet, call Scott. Oh wait, you can't, can you? The line went dead. Melanie screamed and threw her phone into the passenger seat. She sat there in the stillness. The hum of campus life around her like white noise. Normal people going about their day while her world fell apart. She had no home. No money, no allies, and no clue what came next. Back at the mansion, Jonathan stood on the patio staring out over the hills. He held a legal document in one hand, fresh from his lawyer, the divorce filing finalized, signed. He single quotes, de-waited, held on to hope for years that maybe Melanie would wake up, see what she had. Choose love over greed. But love didn't live here anymore. He heard the faint crunch of tires on gravel, turn her Porsche, pulling up the driveway slowly. Like a soldier returning from a lost war, she got out, not with her usual swagger, but with the defeated shuffle of someone who'd lost everything. Her makeup was smudged. Her phone battery was dead, and for the first time in years, she looked small. She approached him cautiously. Jonathan, please, can we talk? He didn't speak, just nodded toward the patio chair opposite him. She sat, quiet, almost childlike. You win, she whispered. He tilted his head. This wasn't a game, Melanie. She looked away, shame flooding her face. I was stupid. I let it all get to my head. The parties, the lifestyle. I forgot who I was, who we were. He stayed silent. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. Yeah, but Jonathan, I don't have anywhere else to go. I just need time, a chance to make things right. He finally looked at her. You had years to make things right. She wiped her eyes, mascara streaking. Please, just 30 days. I'll stay out of your way. I'll sleep in the guest house. Just don't throw me out. Jonathan sighed. I gave you 22 years. I'm giving you 48 hours. Her mouth fell. Open? What? You can stay 2 more days. After that, I want you gone. You can't do that. Already did. He stood and left her sitting there, surrounded by everything she was about to lose. The home, the garden, the pool, the view. All of it. And none of it was hers anymore. Over the next 48 hours, reality crushed Melanie like a slow rolling avalanche. She walked from room to room, no longer as a queen in her castle, but as a ghost haunting a life that no longer belonged to her. She tried calling Scott again. No answer. His social media. He deleted her. Blocked. She sent a long, rambling email. You said you loved me. Nothing, she. Tried contacting some of her old girlfriends, her brunch crowd, the shopping circle, the designer-wearing posse she once led. Most didn't reply. Those who did offered fake sympathies, but no invitations, no help. Without status, without money. Without Jonathan, she had become invisible. She dug through her closet, pulling expensive shoes and handbags off their racks, trying to stuff them into suitcases. Only then did she notice. The tags, each one registered under Jonathan's name, his account, his purchase. She tried selling them online. The app flagged her. Fraud. Protection. She wasn't even allowed to liquidate her luxuries. Then came the final morning. Jonathan came down to the kitchen at 7 a.m. As he always did, Melanie was already sitting at the table, clutching a cup of black coffee with trembling hands. Her suitcases were by the door. She didn't speak. He did. "There's a car waiting for you. It'll take you to a short-term rental downtown. I paid for the first 30 days. After that, sure, on your own." She nodded, eyes empty. "You'll be served the divorce papers by this evening." She nodded again. He paused, then asked the one question that had haunted him. "Why, Melanie? Why him? Why do any of this?" She looked up, her eyes glossy. "Because I thought you'd never leave." The silence after that was deafening, and then she stood, wheeled her suitcases to the door, and left. Rock Bottom has no floor. The door to the downtown rental creaked as it opened. Melanie stepped inside, her heels echoing in a space that smelled of mildew and regret. The wallpaper was peeling, the carpet stained. The single lamp in the corner flickered, as if even electricity was tired of working here. This was her new life. From marble floors and chandeliers to water-stained ceilings and rusted pipes, she dropped her bags on the worn-out couch and stood still for a moment. As if refusing to fully accept it, there was no house staff, no imported coffee, no Chloe, no Jonathan, just silence, the hum of an old fridge fighting for its life. She turned on the faucet, brown water. She covered her mouth with a trembling hand, holding back a sob. But this wasn't a movie. No one was coming to comfort her. There was no redemption music swelling in the background. This was real life, and it had finally caught up to her. 3 weeks passed. Melanie tried to hold on. She sold a few old clothes under a fake name, just enough for groceries. She ate instant noodles, watered-down oatmeal, and bargain wine. Her phone remained silent. Scott was gone. Brooklyn, still not speaking. Her once vibrant social group vanished. She had no job experience, no degree. Every resume she submitted led nowhere. Nobody wanted to hire a 47-year-old former housewife with no skills except organizing galas and cheating well. Meanwhile, across town, Jonathan sat on the deck of his now peaceful home, sipping tea and watching the sunrise. His lawyer had finalized the divorce filing. Melanie received nothing. The prenup held strong. She didn't even contest it. She couldn't afford a lawyer. And for the first time in years, Jonathan could breathe. The mansion no longer felt like a prison. Rooms echoed with freedom, not betrayal. And Chloe. Sweet Chloe had started visiting more often. They sat at the breakfast table again, just the two of them. No tension, no screaming. One morning, she looked up from her smoothie and said, "You seem lighter." Jonathan smiled. "I feel lighter." She hesitated, then asked, "Do you still love her?" He didn't answer right away, just stared out. At the morning light, "I loved the woman she used to be. The one who held my hand when we were broke. The one who laughed with her whole soul. The one who never needed a private jet to feel like a queen." Chloe nodded, eyes wet. "She's gone now." Jonathan sighed. "She's been gone a long time, back downtown." Melanie sat at a diner in a tattered coat, stirring a black coffee she could barely afford. She looked at the clock. Her rental was up in 4 days. Jonathan had given her 30 days of grace, and that was now almost over. She had nowhere to go, no savings, no one left to beg. And yet, there was one card left to play, a dangerous one. She pulled out her old phone and stared at the cracked screen. Then she dialed. Not Jonathan, not Scott, not Chloe. The media. The story broke 2 days later. Billionaire husband leaves. Wife homeless after cheating scandal. Wife says she was emotionally abused by controlling husband. High society drama. Betrayed wife speaks out. Melanie spun a tale. Painted herself as the victim. Claimed Jonathan had manipulated her for decades. That she had lost herself under his control. That her affair was a cry for help. She cried on camera. Let her voice shake. Wore soft sweaters. And no makeup. The image of the broken, repentant wife. And it worked. For a moment, talk shows called. Bloggers speculated. Sympathy trickled in from strangers. We didn't know the truth, but it didn't last long. Because Jonathan, he had receipts. Within 24 hours, Jonathan's lawyer issued a statement. security footage, text messages, bank withdrawals, flight records, and a copy of the prenup. Everything was verified. Everything was clean. Melanie lied again. The sympathy vanished. Headlines flipped. Socialite's lies exposed. Cheating wife tries to manipulate public, fails. The offers stopped. The calls stopped. Her last play backfired. She had burned her final bridge. Days later, Lonnie was evicted from the rental. She packed her few remaining clothes into a black trash bag and left, quietly in the middle of the night. She slept in her car for 3 nights. Showered at gas stations, ate from vending machines. Every so often, she'd scroll through old pictures on her phone. Her and Jonathan in Venice. Her and Chloe in Paris. Smiles, lies. She tried to message Chloe once. "I miss you. I'm sorry." Chloe didn't reply. Meanwhile, Jonathan stood at the edge of his garden, watching Chloe plant herbs. She'd taken up gardening, said it helped with her anxiety. She looked up and smiled. "Dad, look, basil's already sprouting." Jonathan smiled back, and for the first time in over a decade, he felt peace. When pride dies, shame takes its place. Melanie now lived in the shadows of a city where she once ruled. Her world once polished with diamond rings. Fine dining and red carpet events had shrunk to 4-car doors and a glove box stuffed with unpaid bills. She'd park in 24-hour lots, wrapping herself in old coats and using her designer purse as a pillow. Ironically, the same purse that once turned heads now collected pity stares. One morning, as she shuffled into a downtown cafe to use the restroom and maybe score leftover coffee grounds, a familiar voice rang out. "Oh my God, is that Melanie Carter?" She turned. 3 women sat at a nearby table, manicured hands clutching iced lattes, eyes wide. Melanie tried to duck her head and walk past. Too late, one of them smirked. "Didn't recognize you without the glam squad?" Another whispered loud. "Enough to hear? She looks like she crawled out of a clearance bin." They burst into laughter. Melanie froze. Her eyes burned. She walked out. Fast. Outside, she stood against the wall and fought back, the wave rising inside her, but it came anyway. Sobs. Deep, ugly, uncontrollable sobs, for the first time. Not because she lost money, not because she lost status, but because she had become a joke. She tried applying for work. Anywhere. Waitress, store clerk, hotel receptionist. Everywhere she went, one of 2 things happened. They Googled her name and found the scandal, or they looked at her resume and laughed. Literally, you spent 20 years doing lunch, one woman said bluntly during an interview. Melanie left mid-sentence again. Eventually, a small corner convenience store gave her a shot. The owner didn't recognize her. She saw a woman desperate enough to clean toilets and stock shelves. She worked 6-hour shifts for minimum. Wage, her back ached, her feet blistered. Customers barked orders. No one said thank you, but she didn't. Complained she couldn't afford pride anymore. One day, she received a letter. No return address. Just her name scribbled in ink. She opened it slowly. Inside was a single folded sheet of notebook paper, and it read, "I don't hate you, Mom. I hated what you did. I hated how you abandoned me. But I also see you now, and I don't feel anger anymore. I feel sad. You've had everything, but you lost yourself. I hope you find you again." Chloe Milani read it 3 times. She clutched it like a lifeline. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't silence. And that was something back in the suburbs. Jonathan stood at Chloe's graduation ceremony proud. She walked across the stage, with honors. Afterward, as they posed for photos, she looked up at him and asked, "Do you think she'll ever come back from it?" He thought for a moment, maybe, but that doesn't mean we have to be there waiting. Chloe nodded. "I don't hate her either, Dad." "That's good," he said softly. "Hate is heavy." Months passed. Melanie eventually saved up enough to rent a room in a shared apartment. Not glamorous, but clean. She picked up extra shifts, started journaling, began volunteering at a local women's shelter once a week. No one there knew who she was. No one cared. They just saw someone who showed up, who listened, who helped. And for the first time in a very, very long time, she felt human again. One evening, while walking home in the rain, she paused outside a bakery in the window. A couple was laughing, clearly in love, clearly lost in their moment. She smiled, not out of envy, but out of memory, because once upon a time she'd had that, and she lost it, not because someone took it, but because she threw it away. Final scene. Jonathan opened a book in his study. Small photo fell out. It was old, faded, him and Melanie at their wedding, smiling in love hold. He stared at it for a moment, then set it gently back inside. Some memories are best left between pages. He closed the book and turned off the light. Some endings are just beginnings in disguise. 2 years had passed, not in a blur, but in sharp, grinding days. Time didn't fly when you were rebuilding from ashes. It crawled. But Melanie had changed. She no longer wore makeup every day. No more designer heels. No curated poses for invisible followers. Now she wore soft sneakers, ponytails, and quiet. She worked at a local florist shop, a small family-owned place that paid little but smelled like forgiveness. She swept the floor, arranged bouquets, and listened to people talk about birthdays, breakups, and funerals. Strangely, it gave her comfort. There was something healing in petals and stems. Every Tuesday evening, she walked to the women's shelter, not as a client, but as a mentor. She never told them her full story, but she didn't have to. They saw it in her eyes, the cracks, the past, the fire, and the fact that she was still standing. One girl once asked, "Did someone break you?" Smiled softly, "No, I broke myself. But I learned how to build again, differently." Across town, Jonathan's life had found rhythm. His mornings were calm. His nights were quiet. The bitterness had faded. He had taken up painting, nothing professional, just splashes of color that made no sense to anyone but him. Chloe had moved into her college dorm. She called every few days. Sometimes they laughed about nothing. Sometimes they cried about everything. One afternoon she said, "You know, you're allowed to love again." He paused. "I'm not sure I know how." Chloe replied with the kind of wisdom only pain can teach. "Maybe it's not about knowing how. Maybe it's just about being open when it finds you." That winter it did. Jonathan met a woman named Elaine. She was quiet, kind, and came with no expectations. They met at a bookstore. She was browsing travel guides. He was holding a book on Japanese art. They reached for the same coffee cup at the cafe counter and chuckled awkwardly. It was nothing grand. No sparks flew, but sometimes peace feels better than passion. He took her to a small gallery opening a few weeks later. She smiled the whole evening, genuinely listening. She didn't ask about his past. She didn't need his, not money. She liked his quiet, and he liked her silence. Meanwhile, Melanie received another letter. It was short, just 2 lines. "I'm not ready to see you yet, but I hope you're well." Melanie folded the note and tucked it into her journal. She didn't cry. Not anymore. Some wounds didn't bleed. They just sat under the skin, pulsing. Now and then, but this was progress. She was no longer begging for forgiveness. She was just learning to live with the fact that she didn't deserve it and still had to keep going. Final weeks of winter, one evening, Melanie found herself sitting on a bench at the edge of a frozen pond. The city lights blinked in the distance. Her breath curled in the cold. A child ran by laughing, chasing a snowflake. His mother, young, tired, but glowing with purpose, followed behind. Melanie watched them disappear into the dusk. She smiled, not because she had any of that, but because, for the first time in years, she wasn't bitter. She had found something quieter than loved acceptance. Jonathan painted that night, a canvas full of color and chaos. He signed it at the bottom with one word: closure. He didn't send it to Melanie. He didn't need to, because some things aren't meant to be delivered, they're meant to be let go. Chloe visited the bakery downtown one weekend, the same one Melanie had stood outside of years ago. She sipped coffee, looked at couples, and wrote in her journal. At the bottom of the page, she scribbled a question. Can we love people? She didn't answer it. Some questions don't need answers, just honesty. Epilogue: 3 people, 1 broken. Story: dozens of consequences. But life goes on. Jonathan smiles more now. Chloe forgives slowly now. Melanie breathes deeply now. The past didn't vanish, but it stopped ruling them.